What's up, everyone? Alright, so today we are going to try to get this BMW Z4, get the motor ready to be pulled, motor and transmission, because the motor is pretty much shot. I pulled the head on it, and what I found out was cylinder 5 had a melted piston. I'm not sure if you can see that with the sun lighting it up in there, but that cylinder 5 is pretty much gone. And of course, maybe without me getting in the shade, it melted the piston, so all that around there is just looks like where it just got way too hot, and it pretty much ruined the block. There's really no saving this block unless I wanted to do, an extensive build and do something like bore it over and just make extreme ridiculous power with it. But from what I see, I'm gonna pull this water pump today too, because for overheating issues on these cars, more than likely it was a water pump failure, and it just wasn't getting to cool the block. Because I'll show you what the head gasket looked like right in that area. Bring it out in the sun. But this is on cylinder 6, 5 and 6 right there, and you see that just looks awful. The rest of the head gasket doesn't look too bad, but of course you got one spot, it ruins everything. Head looks pretty decent. I've got it pulled off in here. We got stuff strode everywhere, but it'd be alright. But let's see, cylinder 5 would be here. So cylinder 5 doesn't look awful. I haven't actually, done any testing on this head yet to see if it's warped or anything like that, but I have noticed that the little guides that are supposed to be in the head, in the block, these right here, are actually stuck in the head. So I believe somebody was in this motor before and had done a head gasket, but I don't know if you've seen it in the other video, but when I went to pull this head, none of the bolts, the head bolts, were torqued correctly at all. And that could have been a big issue and a big cause of why this motor failed. But if you look here, it looks like somebody had tapped in every single one of the holes and put, I can't remember what they're called right now, but they had rethreaded the block. So the block's been rethreaded before, with these. I can't remember what they're called, but anyway, if you know what they're called, comment below, let me know. And please like and subscribe this video. Anything helps. When you thumbs up it helps me out tremendously to get to other people to see what's going on and what you can do to. Ooh, look at that. I didn't realize that. Yeah, even the block surface is messed up. Look at that. Right there. So that's why that head gasket looked like it did. And this is another issue as to why it was not properly seated. This right here, I don't know if you can see it in the video or not, but it's not below the head surface, so it never seated correctly. Just all around, pretty much a crappy job of whoever did it. Is that a crack or is that a mold? Okay, that's just a mold. But what we're going to do today, we're going to unbolt everything, unbolt the motor mounts, pull the motor, or not, I'm going to leave the motor mounts on the motor. Anything that's connecting this motor and all the accessories to the body, I'm going to take off today, just so I can get ready to pull it. I went to go get a engine hoist yesterday and they were sold out. So I've got to wait till next week to get it. And another thing that makes this process a lot easier in pulling this motor is if you've got the knowledge to get this far in a motor, pretty sure it's not that hard to pull this front subframe part off. So I'm going to pull this entire, I've got it loose now, as you can see, but I'm going to pull this entire front subframe piece, front bumper part off completely. So when I go to pull this motor and put this motor back in, it's a lot more simple. And of course I've got a deal. I'm not really worried about, pulling the bumper and everything off, because I have to deal with this and do some body work to it, because the factory clips that hold this in are gone, and I guess the guy that thought it would be a great idea to zip tie all this. So, and I've also got to do some wiring for the headlights, because I'm trashing the old headlights, putting new headlights in it. Only thing that I'm really concerned about is I'm gonna have to pull my AC. I think I'm gonna just pull the AC off the bracket and set it to the side, so I don't have to recharge the system, and let all that Freon out into the environment, because that's not good. So I'm gonna figure out a way that I can maybe zip tie this up out of the way. The only problem with that is I've got to leave this close to the car when I pull this entire front off, and the only way to do that is to disconnect right here and then have the system recharged. I don't know what I'm going to do with that yet. I'm going to think on that one, because I can get a system where I can pull the Freon out and put it back in, but I don't know. But another thing I'm going to do once I get this motor out is clean up this engine bay, because another thing, they also thought it'd be a good idea to paint just parts of the engine bay blue. I don't know what the deal is with all that. So it's probably a young kid that had it before the guy that I got it from, and just what young kids do when they get cars, they figure out weird things to do. So, but enough talking. Let's try to get started on what we're doing here. be sure when you pull these two wires off of here, off the starter, that the black with the yellow line is on the top and the solid black's on the bottom. It's going to be your positive and negative, I believe, for whatever those are, but I'll show you here in just a second when I get it pulled off. I'm surprised it was actually starting when I was turning it over trying to find out about the compression, but on this wire right here, I'll get it up and show it to you in a second. Number 10, rubber black ones right now because everywhere is out, so I'm having to deal with it. Since we're in quarantine and all. I think the toughest one for me to get off is going to be the one on the bottom of the full pan. Alright, so if you look at this one, it's pretty much like it's got sliced or cut or something right in there. So I'll have to fix that before I mount everything back. So right now I've got all the wiring unhooked up top except for this one. I believe that's going to be the knock sensor. Everything is unhooked out. Need to unhook right now. Just to get this block out now. I'm going to pull the block and the transmission at the same time. Sorry for the sniffles, guys. It's allergy season, so you can't notice all the pollen. Well, that just looks awful. Lovely. I think I'm going to turn that motor into like a table, like use it on a table or something. I don't know. Just a block. Something cool, because I mean, I don't know why I'd want to rebuild it unless one of you guys wants it to rebuild and bore and stroke and whatever else. I'll sell it to you cheap. Alright, so now I've got to try to get to that one down on the bottom by the skid plate, so more than likely I'm going to have to jack this thing up and get down there to it. So pretty much all I've got left to unbolt on the front of this motor, it looks like just the motor mounts and the AC setup. That's going to be fun.